What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another video here on my Big Bro channel. For those of you that are returning, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you. And for those of you that are new, welcome. This is a space or a community or hell, even a family that I've tried to create where people can come look for things like life advice, entertainment, but mainly find a place where they feel like they fit in, where they belong. Hence the whole Big Brother aspect. I want this to be a place that you can feel happy and safe in. And just find your place that you fit into, because everybody deserves that in life. And if that sounds like something you're looking for, that's something that just sounds great to be a part of, I encourage you to subscribe. If you want to watch from a distance, that's completely fine too. But welcome. So now that we got that out of the way, I want to go over today's topic, which is mental health and mental health awareness. Now, the day that I'm publishing this video, it is October 10th, 2020, which according to the World Health Organization is World Mental Health Day. Now, you could be watching this video days from now or weeks from now, or hell, it's 10 years later and you just stumbled across my YouTube channel. But nonetheless, I feel like this is one of those topics that's evergreen, because mental health is one of those things that we shouldn't be talking about once a year or 1 month out of the year. It's one of those things that we should talk about more, because it's a lot deeper than just individual mental health. It really plays a part in society and the world as a whole. Now, I do like what they're doing with this, because every year on October 10th, they change these themes. So like the year before, it was suicide prevention, and I think before that there was mental health in the workplace. But this year specifically, they're focusing on mental health awareness. And I feel like this is one of the themes I feel more confident talking about, because I'm so passionate about mental health and mental health awareness. Because as a guy who's dealt with an anxiety disorder for years and depression, I feel like my hardest part about coping with my disorder is that I get embarrassed to have it. And I think a lot of the times when I do feel anxious, I try to hide those feelings because I don't want to feel stupid or look stupid in front of other people. And I think like the panic attacks I do have usually arise from trying not to be anxious in front of other people, whether it be friends, families, or even strangers, trying to hide the way you feel because you don't want to be looked down on or look like you're stupid. It sucks. Give me a sec, guys. Sorry, okay. And I know that people aren't necessarily looking at me and thinking, oh, what an idiot, he has an anxiety disorder. But when with anxiety, you feel that way. But I also personally think that there's this negative stigma that's been created around mental illnesses and mental health as a whole. And I'm not even talking strictly about anxiety and depression. I mean anything from ADHD to bipolar disorder to schizophrenia. I mean everything under that umbrella of mental health and mental illnesses has this negative stigma that we've created, because people see it as a disadvantage. They see this trait, or this one characteristic that you have, as something that gets in the way from you being a part of society or being a part of the normal crowd. I mean, even for me, like there's been times where I can't make it through a dinner with people where I don't feel the sudden feeling of impending doom that I'm about to die in the middle of dessert. And for some people, it's hard for them to see that as normal. So it creates the stigma that you don't fit in. You're an outcast because you can't control your brain. And this creates that cycle, this really harmful cycle of effects from this negative stigma, to where people are afraid to seek help. They're afraid to seek treatment. They're afraid to seek even resources like something as simple as me making a video just talking about it, because they're afraid that they're different, or they're afraid that they're going to be looked at like they're different. Now, some of these effects that the stigma can bring on is that, like I said, people are reluctant to seek treatment. And I felt that same thing because I was afraid to talk to anybody about this when it first came up. Family, friends, I mean, even professionals, I wasn't sure what to do, because how am I supposed to go explain to somebody that I was feeling perfectly fine a year ago, but then all of a sudden now I can't? I feel like I'm gonna die every 30 minutes of the day. How do I say that without feeling crazy? How do I say that without just absolutely going insane? And that's one of them, but it's just so much deeper than that, because that lack of understanding from people just adds to that cycle, that negative stigma cycle. And there's things that can come along with that, like bullying. Some people will even face physical violence or harassment for their mental illnesses. Even some health insurances. I know for me, when I finally started seeing a therapist, they covered a certain portion of it, thank God. But even then, like, it was still expensive for me. They were only covering like 50% of it, and the other half of it, like, I was in college. I didn't really work all that. I didn't work a full-time job. And I had other bills I had to pay, so it sucked not being able to focus on my mental health because my insurance company didn't take it as a serious illness or a serious disease, illness, whatever you want to call it. And I thought to myself, especially now as I'm making this video, like there's people that have anxiety or bipolar disorder or any of these mental illnesses that could be 10 times stronger than what I experience, and they may have insurance that doesn't cover it all. And I think to myself, like, what an awful way to think about that there's people out there that can't get help because even insurance providers don't see and acknowledge mental health as a serious issue. And just, I guess, like the last thing that the stigma brings on is just that feeling that you're never going to succeed at any of these challenges, or the feeling that you're stuck, because you don't have a chance at having a happy life when you feel like this all the time. Now I feel like I've just gotten so wrapped up in like the emotions and the feelings of this topic that I've just kind of gotten off the whole point of this video, which is just to acknowledge the fact that times are tough. Like this year has been something different than anything we've experienced before, where people aren't going to school, they can't go to work, you can't socialize with other people in the social settings that we're used to, and there's things like economic, consequences from all of this pandemic. And I feel like there's going to be things where we see a rise or a spike, at least, in mental health or mental illnesses. And I even read somewhere before I like when I was doing my research for this video, I read somewhere there was like 60% of people walking around with a treatable mental illness that they don't even know about. And it just scares me to think that, like, I at least have something to attribute my feelings to. Like, I can blame my anxiety and say, oh, I feel this way because I have an anxiety disorder. I feel depressed, like I have depression. Where there's people walking around that are feeling the exact same way as me and they have no explanation for it. So just like be aware that there's people out there that are dealing with it, and even if you're not one of them, it still exists, and you shouldn't take away from that, because the whole point of this awareness is to destroy, I guess, but kind of get rid of that negative stigma that's been created. And there's ways to do that, is not being afraid to go seek help, not being afraid to seek treatment. If you need treatment, if you want medication or just somebody to talk to, don't be afraid to seek it. But don't label yourself as somebody that has a mental illness and you don't want to seek help because you're embarrassed. And don't let it create self-doubt and shame, because you equate yourself to your illness. You define yourself as the person. You define yourself as anxiety. You define yourself as bipolar disorder. You define yourself as any of these things, because you're not. I'm not anxiety. I'm Tim Black. I am a human. I am just a person that has anxiety, but I am not anxiety. I'm not defined by my anxiety, and I live with it. I don't let it stop me from living my life. I am still living. So do not let yourself be labeled by what you're going through. Just because you may not be in perfect mental condition right now does not mean that you will always be that way. You are just going through something, and you can get better, and you will get better. And just being able to listen to someone talk about it, or even being able to talk about it yourself, joining support groups or looking for counseling, looking for help at school, just speaking out against the stigma is really as the most simple way to fight this negative stigma and hopefully normalize mental health and mental illnesses altogether. Because just expressing your opinions, whether it be expressing yourself to your plant or to your family or to your friends, just talking about it and kind of normalizing it and getting rid of that judgment from others that we seem to just assume is going to come, allowing others to learn to accept your condition, accept your mental health stage that you're in. The way I see it is like mental health is like this like bar. You got like your anxiety and whatever disorder, whatever you're dealing with over here, and then you have being happy and being perfect and not having to worry about things over here. And what you want to do is slowly work your way over. And by doing all these things, you can get closer and closer to feeling something to where you're not in a dark hole anymore. And God, I guess like just as I wrap this up, I just want to acknowledge the fact that I'm glad that there's a day for this. I'm glad that we're talking about this, but I want to normalize it. I want to make it to where you feel comfortable talking about it, feel okay acknowledging the fact that this is something that you're going through, and I don't want you to feel alone. I want you to understand that there are so many people that go through it too. I've been going through it for years, and while I'm still learning to cope with it, and while I still have to fight this negative stigma that I've created for myself, and even created for other people that I just assume that they think that way, we have to continue to be aware that these mental illnesses and just poor mental health exists. So that's it. That's where I'm going to leave it off. I don't want to say happy World Mental Health Day, but let's just go with, acknowledge it. Let's acknowledge that it's World Mental Health Day. Let's continue to acknowledge mental health moving forward. Don't be afraid to seek conversation. If you want, reach out to me, DM me, do something. I will respond to everybody if I have to, because I understand the feeling and I don't want anyone to go through the fear of not having anyone to talk to. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up before I just keep rambling on at this point. I appreciate the love and support. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment if you guys just want to join this family and just have conversation about this stuff. Let me know. But thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in next week's video.